What's up, everybody? My name is Cody Rattler, and as many of you guys know, I am a huge Legend of Zelda fan. With the recent announcement of Hyrule Warriors Era of Calamity, I've been feeling super motivated to put together my own theory video, specifically around the Cycle of Calamity. I've been watching Zelda theory videos for the last couple years, and I feel like this particular subject hasn't been hit on. So I'm going to do the best I can to try to cover this and get all my thoughts out there for you guys. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments down below. And without further ado, let's dive into the theory. Let's start off by looking at the first Breath of the Wild. When Link initially reunites with Impa, she explains the events that happened 10,000 years ago with Calamity Ganon. She opens up her story by saying the history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages. So in this first opening line, we know that Calamity Ganon has tied to the royal family for ages. She then immediately follows that up by explaining that this evil has been turned back time and time again by a warrior wielding the soul of a hero, and a princess who carries the blood of the goddess. Impa then goes on to explain the story from 10,000 years ago, saying that Hyrule was an advanced civilization. The most powerful monsters pose little threats to the Denzians of the realm. This next line is extremely important and something that I feel is easily overlooked. Impa says that the people thought it was wise to utilize their technological prowess to ensure the safety of the land should Calamity Ganon ever return. So let me just pause here. 10,000 years ago, they were aware of Calamity Ganon. 100 years ago, we had no idea Calamity Ganon was a thing. The people of Hyrule were warned by a fortune teller that came forward to the king to say, hey, Calamity's coming back. The king and everybody in Hyrule didn't even know what Calamity was. They didn't know about the Divine Beast. They didn't know about the Guardians. So the king orders everybody to start digging. And eventually they found the Divine Beasts and all the Guardians. They started digging them all up. Next thing they know, they're trying to learn how to operate them. They assign champions. They're basically doing the best they can at this point to prep for the prophecy's warning. They know Calamity is going to return. None of them even knew it was a thing. But here they are finding out that there's this danger that's coming and we need to prepare for it. Unfortunately for them, Calamity came too early. None of them were prepared. All four champions lost their life. Link more or less lost his life, and Zelda got stuck in Hyrule Castle for 100 years, holding Calamity. It's important to note that 10,000 years ago, they knew Calamity was coming. They used their technology to prepare for Calamity, and when it arrived, they whooped its ass. The battle went much better than it did 100 years ago. In fact, that's why the battle 100 years ago didn't go so well. It's because Ganon already knew about the Guardians. He already knew about the Divine Beasts. We saw that 100 years ago when it reappeared, it took over those, which is ultimately what led to the fall of Hyrule. So again, the thing that I want to highlight here is that we know from the two times that we've seen it, Calamity Ganon has appeared 100 years ago and currently present day, as well as 10,000 years ago. And from 10,000 years ago, that wasn't the first time because they were prepping for his return, meaning it had already been a thing prior to that. Now let's take a look at the sequel's trailer. At this point in time, it's safe to say that Breath of the Wild 2 takes place after the events of Breath of the Wild, so we know that present-day hero and princess have defeated Calamity. From what the trailer shows, Link and Zelda are currently exploring what looks to be some sort of catacombs. They're going a little bit deeper. They look like they've packed for a journey. Whatever it is, they're trying to find something. The further they go into this cave, the darker the music gets. Eventually they see the figure standing in the big open room. We see a bunch of malice pouring from the figure, and then a bunch of quick shots go by, and next thing we know, Ganondorf is being woken up. And obviously, the first time we all saw this over a year ago, we were all very excited because Ganondorf, human Ganon, has not been mentioned barely at all in the first Breath of the Wild. In fact, the only time that I had ever picked up on Ganondorf being mentioned was during a cutscene with Urbosa. She mentions that it was written Calamity Ganon once adopted the form of a Gerudo. In fact, you can tell that there's a little bit of hate and malice in that, and almost why she feels even more inclined to fight Calamity. But we do pick up on the fact that at one point he was a human. We never see Ganondorf in Breath of the Wild. All we see is Calamity. And when we beat Calamity, it almost seems like it's only a temporary win, because at this point, the Cycle of Calamity seems like it's not gonna end. Now looking at the trailer, when they do wake up the body and we've confirmed it's basically Ganondorf, that then starts posing so many other questions. We can start looking forward to what we could expect at Breath of the Wild 2, but the biggest question that came from that trailer for me is how long has he been down there? If you look at the body, Malice is pouring out of it and it's going upward. We know that Calamity Ganon continues to reappear over time. Last time was 100 years ago, and prior to that was 10,000 years ago. We don't know exactly where Breath of the Wild falls in the Zelda timeline. We don't know how much time there is between the last Zelda title. We can basically just throw time out of the window at this point. There could be an infinite amount of time between the last Zelda title and what we're seeing here in Breath of the Wild. That being said, there could have been hundreds of Calamity Ganons over the course of time. So, how long has Ganondorf's corpse really been down there? That's the biggest question that I have at the moment. We know that the malice pouring out of him is building up over time, and it's giving enough power for Calamity to respawn. If his body's down there and it's just pouring out malice, it's gonna just continue to build up, and thus Calamity's gonna continue getting more power. My theory for Breath of the Wild 2 is that Zelda was starting to pick up on this. Zelda was reading into the cycle a little bit more, and she might know that it's not over. I don't think anybody at the end of Breath of the Wild knew at the time, but I think as time goes, Zelda, she's probably going to start putting pieces together. I think what we see in the sequel's trailer is Zelda trying to figure out if there's more to the story. I don't know if this is fortunately or unfortunately, but her and Link absolutely find the source of malice. They find Ganondorf, and it doesn't look like anything good is about to come from that. But what does that mean? Ganondorf has been frozen this whole time. For how long? We don't know how far back this goes. But what we do know is he's stuck in like a stasis, shriveled form almost. We've also seen that in the monks from Breath of the Wild, the Sheikah monks that are found at the end of each shrine. They're all pretty much preserved in life, just waiting for Link. They have their own roles to aid the hero, but somehow their magic is keeping them alive over the course of God knows how long. My point being, that same magic could have been used on Ganondorf. And maybe at the time they were thinking that was going to be the solution to their problem, but we see that Calamity continues to spawn over time. So with Breath of the Wild 2, I absolutely believe that we're going to be focusing on the source, Ganondorf. I don't think Calamity is even going to be a thing anymore now that Ganondorf has awoken. But that also begs the question of how much more trouble is Hyrule actually in now? Because we're not necessarily any better than we were before. But now we've got Ganondorf, which is a full monster compared to the Calamity that was a pigment of his full power. Lastly, I'll go ahead and share some of my thoughts on the Hyrule Warriors era of Calamity. There's a couple different things that we pick up on from the Champions Ballad, the DLC from Breath of the Wild. If you guys have that downloaded, you'll know that the champions all had their own diary journals, found in their own houses in various spots in their own villages, but there are 4, one for each champion, and they all share their experiences with Link. One of my favorites is Daruk's. He explains how Link starts out as a basic knight, and he continues to grow and outsword all the other knights. He's one of the best. He arguably is the best. He's the best knight there is, right? So in Daruk's journal, one of the entries goes on to explain that the first time they were testing on Guardians, it started malfunctioning and shooting off laser beams randomly. Link grabbed a nearby pot lid and deflected the Guardian's laser back to the Guardian, destroying it and saving Princess Zelda from the laser blast. It was at that point that the king had recognized Link's potential and appointed him as Zelda's personal knight. Stuff like that I absolutely feel is going to be elaborated more on this era of Calamity. In fact, on the website, it even goes so far to show that you can get the ladle and pot lid as pre-purchased items. Just seeing stuff like that reminds me of the little stories in the universe that are just sprinkled here and there. But there is so much to this game that every little thing adds up. If it's included in the game, it means something. That being said, I just really wanted to focus on the fact that we don't know how long the Calamity cycle has been going on, and we can pretty much presume at this point that Calamity is only a thing because Ganondorf's body has been sealed wherever he's sealed, and malice is pouring out of it. At this point, again, it's safe to say Calamity's probably not going to be involved in Breath of the Wild 2, but we're going to need to see how Ganondorf now steps into place. From that, I'm pretty much out of thoughts on what may or may not happen. If you guys want to see more videos, you should really check out some of the YouTubers that I'm going to be linking down below. Again, I love Zelda theories, so if you guys are like me, please give the video a like, comment whether you agree or disagree, or maybe I'm just missing pieces, or perhaps I pointed something out that you hadn't thought of. Maybe you have something that I didn't think of. That's the whole point in sharing these videos and learning from each other. That, I'm going to wrap it up. I really appreciate you guys' time. If you guys enjoyed the video, again, give it a like. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. My channel is very fresh and I'm growing with a lot of motivation, but I appreciate your guys' time. I'll catch you in the next video, and until then, adios.